She drove the last nail into the wooden post and stepped back. The white private property sign gleamed under the fading sun, as if it was finally breathing after being buried for years. To her, the land felt like home, like a promise. But the neighborhood treated it like a stain. Curtains shifted as eyes followed her every move. Not a single word was spoken, yet she could feel their verdict. She didn't belong. She never did. The air smelled of damp soil and lilacs, his favorite scent. She wondered if the earth still remembered him, the man who vanished 3 years ago. She never said goodbye, and now it felt like the land itself wouldn't let her. As the wind stirred, she felt it again, the subtle whisper in her ear, "Why did you come back?" But she ignored it. She had waited too long to claim this place. It should have been theirs. Now it was only hers. Footsteps crunched against gravel. She turned. Elias Dorian, the HOA president, stood by the mailbox. He wasn't surprised to see her. His expression was unreadable, but his smile carried something sharp. Something familiar. "That sign," he said quietly. "You can't put it there." She asked why. He only replied, "Because this isn't your property." "Not anymore." His voice held no threat, yet it made her heart race like prey sensing a predator. She noticed the way he looked at the sign, not with annoyance, but with memory. As if it meant more to him than to anyone else. She swallowed the unease and answered, "I have every right to be here." For a moment, she swore she saw something flicker in his eyes, regret, or longing, or maybe both. But he simply stepped back and left, no argument, no warning. Only a final glance at her as the sun dipped behind him. It felt more like a beginning than an end. That night, she tried to sleep but felt the house breathing around her. The floorboards sighed. The windows tapped. Then, suddenly, a flash of white through the blinds, motion-activated floodlights blazing across the yard. But nothing was moving outside. At least nothing she could see. The clock read 2:14 a.m. when she heard the click. The sound of her front door unlocking, slowly, deliberately. She froze. She knew she had locked it, she always double-checked. Her breath caught as she reached for the nearest object, an old brass candlestick. She waited. No footsteps. No whispers. Just silence thick enough to drown in. She walked toward the door, forcing her grip steady. The handle was cold. The lock was undone. But no one had entered. She could see Elias's reflection in her mind, his eyes carefully controlled, his voice steady as if he rehearsed every word. She wondered if he still kept the spare key from years ago. And if so, did he use it tonight? She locked the door again. But the dread stayed. The neighborhood felt wrong, the air felt heavy, and the soil under her feet felt like it was holding secrets, waiting to be dug up. The HOA might think she was trespassing. But deep down, she feared something worse. Maybe she was trespassing. Not on land. But on memories that refused to die. She was watering the roses when the sirens arrived, no flashing lights, no blaring alarms. Just a quiet approach, like a ritual that had been planned long before she stepped onto this land. 2 police cars rolled to a stop, side by side, sealing off the path like closing jaws. She didn't even hear the engines. They were too calm. Too certain. She felt eyes on her before she saw the officers. Elias was standing at the corner of the street, perfectly still, like a statue placed for display. She wondered how long he had been watching before they came. She wondered if he had already decided what would happen to her tonight. The officers approached slowly. Not suspicious. Not aggressive. Just familiar, as if they had met before but she couldn't remember when. The taller one spoke first. "Ma'am, we need you to step away from the property." His tone was rehearsed. His gaze wasn't on her, he was looking down at her name written on a notepad. Her full name. As if it had been studied. She stood still. Water dripped from the flowers onto her shoes. Why? She asked, though she already knew. She could feel the answer tightening around her like invisible cuffs. The officer replied, "The HOA reported you for trespassing. You don't have permission to be here." Her pulse throbbed in her ears. The rose stems trembled in her hand. "This is my property," she said. "It always was." Her voice felt like it belonged to someone else. They exchanged a glance, the kind that didn't need words. The kind used when decisions had already been made. Elias stepped forward then. Not to defend her. Not to accuse her. But to stand close enough for her to feel the heat of his presence. He smiled gently, but his eyes never softened. "You still smell like the lilacs we planted," he whispered. His voice was low enough only she could hear. "Before everything went wrong." Her fingernails pressed into her palms. She hadn't told anyone about the lilacs. She hadn't even planted them yet. Not this time. And yet somewhere, some part of her remembered doing exactly that. As the officers reached for her wrists, she felt a strange calm wash over her, not surrender, but recognition. It was happening again. Just like before. The roses dipped to the ground. The cuffs locked. The air grew colder. As she sat in the back of the squad car, she looked at him through the window. Elias. Still motionless. Still watching. The streetlight behind him flickered, and for a second, his face disappeared into shadow. It wasn't fear she felt now. It was clarity. They weren't arresting her because she was trespassing. They were arresting her because she knew something. And Elias was making sure she wouldn't speak of it. Not here. Not freely. But she wasn't afraid anymore. Because even locked inside a police car, she knew exactly what they were all trying to hide. She just needed to remember it, and make them remember it too. And she promised herself one thing as the engine started. This time, she wouldn't be the one disappearing. The interrogation room was colder than she remembered, though she couldn't recall ever being in one before. The walls were bare, painted the color of faded bones. A single camera blinked above the door like an unblinking eye. She expected officers to question her, to threaten her, to break her down. But no one came. Not yet. She asked for no lawyer. No phone call. Only one name, Elias Dorian. The officers exchanged looks, hesitation wrapped in confusion, yet they allowed it. Almost too easily. As if they knew this moment had already been written. When Elias entered, he wasn't wearing a badge, but he wore authority like a second skin. He placed a cup of coffee on the table in front of her, and for a second, she forgot she was handcuffed. Forgotten memories pulled at her, soft, painful things. His voice brought them back in shards. "You always took your coffee without sugar," he said. She didn't answer. Didn't touch the cup. Her heartbeat was loud enough to be another presence in the room. He sat down across from her, elbows on the table, leaning forward just enough to make her feel cornered. "You shouldn't have come back," he said, though there was no anger in it. Just certainty. And something quieter. Something almost like regret. Her voice trembled, but not from fear. "I came to reclaim what was mine." His eyes didn't move. "You didn't come for land," he said. "You came for closure." He paused, then added, softer, "or revenge." The lights buzzed overhead. A long silence followed. She didn't break it. She just stared at his hands. Clean. Steady. Controlled. She remembered them holding hers once. And she remembered them letting go when everything went wrong. Finally, he slid an envelope across the table. A small motion. But her pulse answered it like thunder. Inside was a photograph, 3 people smiling. Her. Elias. And another man, whose absence had carved a hole in her memory for 3 years. The man who vanished. The man they never officially declared dead. The man whose fingerprints, according to the back of the photo, had been found today, on her property. Her throat went dry. She looked at Elias, searching for guilt, for a crack in his calm, but found something worse. Longing. Loss. Maybe even love twisted into something unrecognizable. He said quietly, "We didn't bury him to protect ourselves." A pause. A breath. "We buried him to protect you." She felt everything tilt. Every memory reshaped itself. Every accusation blurred. Something inside her broke. Or awakened. Their fingers brushed on the table, brief, electric, intentional. Not forgiveness. Not romance. But connection born from sin, dark, undeniable. Tears stung her eyes. Not for grief. But for clarity. She finally understood why the land rejected her. Why the neighborhood watched her like a ghost. Why Elias never truly left her alone. This wasn't trespassing. It was returning to the scene of a crime. One committed for love. And one that wasn't finished yet. She looked at him and whispered, "Then help me remember everything." And Elias, with the faintest smile, replied, "I already am."